amongst all the promoters, companies that are out there, how do you rate yourself? How does Eddie Hearn rate himself as a promoter?
I mean, you know I'm not low on ego, but let's be honest. As a promoter, right? Forget the platform, as a promoter, as a voice, as someone that delivers the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about a dying breed of people that go up on the dais, right, and say, welcome. This is my show, and let me tell you why you should come. They don't do it anymore. If you look at PBC, they don't have a front man. Bob's 93, right? Oscar's Oscar.
Oscar's
right?
Oscar.
So, a lot of the time, I do think I'm really good at that, but I don't really have that much competition because now the promoters want to get the network guy or the reporter up there going, oh, hi to the fighters. Like, no, I need to create that. We had an incident yesterday with Jarrell Miller and Jared Anderson.
I saw it.
Right? And after the press conference, Jared Anderson weren't very happy. He's like, why are they asking me questions about Jarrell Miller? But I was like, mate, you understand? You know how many people will watch that little clip and that's what they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see your personality. Don't take it personal.
Yeah.
This is a show. And, I think we're really well placed in the US market. That no UK promoters come to America ever, done a big TV deal and been in the conversation as one of the top promoters. I know it's PBC, it's Top Rank, it's Match. It's like the big three, if you like, and there's others as well. But Top Rank are a good company.
Mm-hmm.
They have a huge history in the sport. But Bobby's 93.
He is.
I don't see the bulldog spirit in that company to drive the business forward over the next 5 or 10 years.
Right.
You got Todd. Todd's a good businessman, but he don't live and breathe boxing.
You don't
Bob
think so?
does. No, I know he doesn't. But Bob does. Bob's amazing. 93. I mean, I wouldn't mind leaving the game at some point while I've still got time to actually enjoy my life. It's a passion for me, but the business is, right? But Bob, you can't, we did a fight once in the UK and they did an evening with me and Bob, right? And they said, Eddie, what's your proudest moment as a promoter? And I was like, I did AJ against Klitschko, Wembley, 90,000, blah, 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 blah. And they went, Bob, what about you? And he went, well, it's between the Thriller in the Manila and the Rumble in the Jungle. And I was like, blimey.
Hey,
I mean,
sit
what
down,
that
young
guy,
buck.
yeah, I mean, that's it.
What you gonna say about that?
I know. So we don't always get on, but I respect him.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the hustle. I respect the grind and I respect the passion and his achievements.
Well, to that point, I sat down with Terrence Crawford and he and I had dialogue about, do the promoters really dislike each other? I know years ago, you all met in New York. I think you were a part of that. And you guys signed your signatures as a union. I don't think anything came of it. Terrence's take was, these guys really don't dislike each other. That's a show. Is it really a show when you guys go back and forth?
I think they dislike me. 100. I mean, Oscar can't
because
stand
you're
me.
not from here, or just because of the type of business you're doing?
I think the way I sort of talk a lot, and obviously, I think anyone that comes into a new market from another country steps on toes. I don't dislike any of them. But I think that what happens is Bob. This happened with Shakur, and this happened with Terrence. Once Bob knows they're off, they're dead to him. Do you know what I'm saying? So when Shakur's got 2 fights left and he goes, when my Top Rank deal's up, I'm not re-signing. And I don't blame Bob, by the way. Where's your motivation to grow that fighter for the future? Terrence the same. Bob got it in his head because Bob lost money on Terrence, right? So he'd do a pay-per-view with Terrence, lose money, and Bob would be like, the famous line from Bob, remember, where he said about Terrence Crawford, he went, why would I do a Terrence Crawford fight when I could go and buy another mansion in Beverly Hills for the fight? Do you know what I mean?
Let me ask you that. But I understand the fighter sort of showing their hand. I'm not sure fighters should do that. If you want to leave, that doesn't have to be public information because you will see a promoter acting different.
Yeah.
But somebody like Terrence Crawford, is that a fair statement when he hasn't got a real shot at pay-per-view? We're talking about Victor Postol and
Amir Khan. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that a real fair shot? When
I feel like the way you don't just become a pay-per-view star. You have to be built from an early part of your career if you want to do the big numbers. And I just feel like Terrence Crawford wasn't built properly coming through. I look at Terence and I look at Shakur Stevenson. I'm probably a little bit disjointed because I'm from the UK. And if we had Terence Crawford and we had Shakur, these guys would be national heroes, right? They'd be like superstar. I know, but I also get the feeling that America, like still America, you still love sport. I know that boxing's not, the biggest sport in America, but these are quite like, how good is Shakur? He's a 3-division world champion. He's 27 years of age, right? He's not even really come out of first gear, has he? Like,
I don't believe so.
I mean, but really, he could walk out now, down here in LA. I don't think many people know who he is. Even Terence. These guys I feel like should be, but you build them from the ground up. So what happened with Terence was he was never really built or promoted correctly. And then his purses, because he was so good and because he was winning everything, were going up and up and up. And then Bob looks at it and goes, we need to put him on pay-per-view because ESPN or wherever it is at the time aren't paying them the rights fees to pay what this guy wants. So we roll the dice on pay-per-view and it flops, right?
But it's set up to flop when you're facing a Jeff Horn.
Yeah, but then I guess you're right in the respect of when he fights Errol Spence, the numbers are much better.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But when he fights Jeff Horn, when he fights Posto, when he fights Amir Khan, when he fights Kell Brook.
Are those fights, were those fights ever really going to sell?
Not really, but what happens, Dre, is the fighters' purses become so expensive. The only model that works is pay-per-view, but you're rolling the dice because if you don't hit the numbers, someone's got to make up the deficit on the minimum. And that will be Bob, right? So when Terence does his deal to fight Kell Brook or Amir Khan, he says, I want 3 million, 4 million minimum guarantee, plus I want my upside on the pay-per-view over 150. It ends up doing 60,000 buys, and the break-even point is 125 for Top Rank, and they're in for 3 million. And then Bob looks at it and goes absolutely berserk, and from that day, Bob goes, he's a waste of money. Not, do you know what? This is frustrating. This kid's special. We've got to find a way to get to 125. Bob's already made his mind up, right? And then the conversation, and then Terence goes, I won that. Next fight, I want 4 million guarantee, 5 million. And Bob goes, I lost 3 million on that. You. And then
it's not. This is my point. And I get everything you're saying, and you're right. But from the fighter standpoint, you don't get what's fair. You get what you negotiate. Let me elaborate. We're into a negotiation, fighter promoter, and these minimums are being brought up, right? And as a fighter, so you got to give the fighter a little bit more credit. If I know historically, I haven't been promoted as a pay-per-view star, just been the bare minimum. Just speaking generally, I'm gonna make sure my minimums are strong because at the end of the day, that's what I'm guaranteed. Now, you crying about what you didn't make, it's got nothing to do with me. It does in a sense, because it can hurt me.
You're right. You got to fight your own.
But hear me. I'm saying this is the fighter's standpoint. The promoter's standpoint. The fighter said, if I know historically I haven't gotten the push that I feel like I need, my minimums have to be strong. Just because you try to prop up a pay-per-view against a Jeff Horn, Amir Khan, or whoever the case may be, Amir Khan's way past his prime. That's not going to sell. I know it. You know it. And then when the pay-per-view doesn't do what you think it's going to do, or we know it's not going to sell. But now I'm on the hook for you losing money, and then that's the narrative that's got put out there. That's the game that promoters play.
But this is where you done a great job, right? Because you were in fights that I feel like you knew, you did good numbers, but you knew probably wouldn't deliver the numbers that would justify the purse that you was asking for. And that's when you get that between the promoters, right? So you go, I'm the greatest fighter in the world. This is a big fight. This is my purse for this fight, right? And the promoter goes, yeah, but we're just not going to hit those numbers. You go, I don't really care. To be honest with you, that ain't really my problem. This is my number. Yeah. And
I look at it.
But you were smart because you wouldn't have rolled the dice on the pay-per-view only without the guarantee.
I might. If I
in
know
the right fight. Only
the right fight, the right time, and what is your rollout plan? See, promoters don't give fighters a lot of credit, and I think that would bridge the gap a little bit in terms of the communication. And maybe promoters don't want to communicate better with fighters. Maybe they just look at them like
that they do, but a lot of the time
commodities, and you just go fight and shut up.
But also, Dre, a lot of the time the teams don't want you to have that relationship with a fighter. my favorite kind of relationship is to have those conversations with a fighter where you can sit down and talk through the business. Some don't have the ability to do it, and some don't want to do it.
True.
But
Some don't.
but a lot of the time, the manager definitely don't want you in.
That's true.
Because they become, I feel like, one of the biggest wastes of money for a boxer. Sorry, because I've got some good friends that are managers. Is a manager. If
that's a heavy statement.
No, if you have the right promoter and the right lawyer, right? But a lot of the time, listen, a good manager is valuable. A manager is a waste of time and a waste of money if you have a good relationship with a promoter and a solid lawyer to look at your contracts, right? Because, you know, I want to have that relationship where I sit down and we can talk it out. I like talking it out with fighters. Some of them, look, you can't, you know, it's unfair for a lot of fighters to be in that negotiation.
It's too much fun.
Yeah, but sometimes they're the best relationships, you know. But you ran your business well, and you know, your reputation was always he wants a lot of money, and he ain't gonna fight unless he gets it. Do you know what I mean?
But
so you got people, and that there's pressure to make fights. You know, you look at that Kovalev fight that you had and the rematch. There was pressure to make those fights. You know,
if you have a model on how you want to promote, or you're only willing to spend a certain amount of money to promote, that's not always the fighter's fault. Now, if you have a dynamite plan laid out and I just refuse and I tell you I don't want to do anything, I'll see you fight night. I'll see you the week of the fight. It's a different conversation. But sometimes when a fighter's negotiating, that's not the first contract they've had with that promoter. They know the history. It's a give and take. And I love
you were always fighting. You know, battling outside of the ring as well, especially not towards the end of your career, but you fought for, you know, you fought for freedom, really, a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I knew this was going to end one day.
Yeah.
And I have to look back and be able to justify the time away from my family. And I don't want to have any regrets.